Capitol Hill to try to reform the nation's criminal justice system. Two freshman senators, a political odd couple, Democrat Cory Booker of New Jersey and Republican Rand Paul of Kentucky, have introduced legislation called the REDEEM Act that would make it easier for juveniles who commit nonviolent crimes to expunge or seal those convictions from their records, lift the federal ban on food stamps and welfare benefits for low-level drug offenders, offer incentives to states that currently try juveniles as adults to encourage them to raise the age to 18, and ban solitary confinement for children except in the most dangerous cases. Senators Paul and Booker join me now. We welcome you both to the NewsHour. Senator Booker, what is it that you most want to change about the criminal justice system?
Well, overall, we have a system that costs taxpayers $250 billion a year. We're 4 to 5% of the globe's population. We lock up 25% of the globe's prison population. And so what we really need is a broad-based transformation of criminal justice that actually saves taxpayer dollars, empowers people to succeed, and keeps our streets safe. And I've seen firsthand how a broken criminal justice system actually adds to criminality by making people who otherwise want to be able to do the right thing by shutting doors in their face and not giving them a chance to redeem themselves in society. So this is a large stretch. I joined the Senate at a time that Senator Rand Paul, Senator Leahy, Senator Durbin, Senator Mike Lee were doing a lot of things to try to change this system, and I'm happy to join this broad-based effort on this urgent need in America.
Senator Paul, you come from a very different political worldview than Senator Booker, but you see this the same way he does?
Well, I think the interesting thing is I don't think it's a right or a left issue. I think it's an issue that we both believe strongly in. I think it's the #1 impediment, or one of the chief impediments, to unemployment. People can't get a job because they have to check off a box saying they're a felon. There are 5 million people who have lost the right to vote. There's also 5 million people who are out of jail who have been convicted of felonies that I think it's denying them an opportunity to get a job. So I want people to work. I want people to get back to work. I want them to get back to voting. And all of these things, I think, are wrapped up in stuff that really both parties can believe, and at least some people from both parties do believe in.
Senator Booker, how do you answer the argument, I guess this especially comes from conservatives, that this is something that should be handled at the state level and not by the federal government?
Well, we have federal laws that deal with these kind of crimes. We've got to reform them. And it's the federal prison population as well as states that's mushrooming. Look, the overall number of prisoners in the United States has gone up tenfold since 1980 alone. So this is something we have to do at every level of government. And in a lot of areas, I believe, in fact, Senator Rand Paul and I partnered on an amendment first to deal with pulling the federal government back in terms of the enforcement of marijuana laws in terms of medical marijuana. So this is something we all have to work on. And in terms of what I'm seeing on the federal government, this waste, this gross waste of billions of dollars on nonviolent drug offenders. Remember, the majority of our criminals that we lock up are nonviolent offenders, and we've got to start figuring out ways to empower them to succeed. And a lot of states, actually, to give them credit, a lot of red states, in fact, are leading the way in lowering prison populations at the same time as lowering crime. The federal government has to lead, has to follow suit.
Senator Paul, based on what I'm reading, this is not given a serious chance of passage this year. What argument are you making to your colleagues? You know, I gather especially Republicans are not exactly excited about this idea.
Well, you know, I think there is a chance it could pass. I've been talking with not only Senator Reid, but Senator Leahy and I are together on a mandatory minimum bill. Senator Durbin and Lee are together on a reform of mandatory minimums. We see the Smarter Sentencing Act, which reduces mandatory minimums, give judges more discretion in these cases, as a base bill that maybe Senator Booker and our bill could be attached to it as an amendment. But I think there's 60, maybe 70 votes in the Senate for this on both sides of the aisle. There are still some naysayers, but I think the public at large is saying, well, you know, we're not so sure drugs are right for people, but we are thinking that maybe we should rehabilitate people, that people, particularly kids, deserve a second second chance. When they make mistakes, let's get them back into society and working, which makes them less likely to go back into drugs.
Senator Paul, staying with you, I was reading that you campaigned for Senator Booker's opponent when he ran.
We're hoping he forgets that. We hope he forgets that. Yeah.
So was it difficult for the two of you to initiate conversations about this?
From my point of view, no, and I kind of look at campaigns differently. You know, I may well campaign for a Republican again in New Jersey, but when we're up here, we're elected officials, and I try to be civil and peace and commerce with all, and really, we have a lot of similarities. This is not us splitting the difference on an issue. It's actually that we both do agree on this, and there's some that we won't agree on, and we'll be polite and we'll vote the other ways. At least that's the way I see it.
Senator Booker, you know, I guess this is the second day in a row we've been talking to two senators who are from across the aisle working together. Yesterday was funding for veterans' health care. Is this something that helps you to be working with senators on the other side, in the other party?
Well, this is what I promised New Jersey voters that I would do. We're all tired of Washington that has these partisan camps where nothing gets done. And so one of the main purposes I had coming down here was to solve New Jersey problems, not in a Democratic camp, but by reaching across the aisle, creating uncommon coalitions, as I said last time I appeared on your show, creating those uncommon coalitions necessary to solve complicated problems. Immigration reform, drug policy reform, supporting our veterans, corporate tax reform. None of these problems are going to be solved in a Democratic way or a Republican way. They're going to be solved in an American way by the people we elect coming together, finding compromise, and moving our nation not left to right, but moving it forward.
Senator Paul, your name very much out there as a potential candidate in 2016. Is this something, when you work with senators from the other side of the aisle in the Senate, is that seen as helping you in Iowa and New Hampshire?
Well, I think it helps both parties. Congress in general has about a 10% approval rating. So anytime we work together, it does help both parties. But I don't do it simply because I think it's something that will help me or help Senator Booker. I do it really, I passionately believe in this. I think the war on drugs has had a racial outcome. We ought to try to fix that as well. There's a host of issues. I've introduced 5 different criminal justice issues in the last 2 months. And is it good politically? Yeah, I'm obviously a politician. I like to get more votes, but it's also the right thing to do, and that's really what motivates me.
I know the two of you worked on at least one other piece of legislation that last year, and that was to forbid the federal government from spending money to interfere with state marijuana laws. Are there other issues where the two of you are working together or in agreement?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we've been discussing, from the disparity between crack and powdered cocaine, making that one-to-one. There's areas within the world of drug policy reform. So the great thing about Senator Paul and our conversations, and he came up to me literally moments after I was sworn in, is that there's a large recognition that he and I have that we have a criminal justice system that's gone awry, costing taxpayers too much money. And I want to add some credence to what he's saying. And us Democrats, whether it's Paul Ryan or whether you agree with what he's saying or not, he's talking about poverty. You just heard Rand Paul talking about the racial disparities. Please understand, we have more African Americans in this country under criminal supervision right now than all of the slaves in 1850. These are urgencies that no matter what your party should weigh upon your consciousness. They belie the truth of who we are as Americans, and we need to address them. And so I'm glad that I have a partner in Rand Paul. Both of us could write a dissertation on our disagreements, but we're finding common ground and having the common sense to say, you know what, if we both agree on something, let's see if we can advance the ball by joining with our colleagues.
We hear you both, and we thank you for joining us, Senator Cory Booker, Senator Rand Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.